The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together, we can work things out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. We do this every week. Every day I get up. Today I was up at 3:30.
Wow.
A little bit early for me. I like to be up at 4. And I spend about 4 hours looking at the news relating to energy and climate change. And every time I find an article that I think is worthwhile, I put together a 55 word synopsis. If I'm lucky, it's just a copy of the first paragraph of the article. Mm-hmm. And then I attach a link to the article to that. I assemble 10 to 15 of these and put them up at my blog, geoharvey.com. And every Thursday, Tom and I get together and talk about the energy news that got up there, picking about 20 items from the previous week. So this week, we're recording on Thursday morning, which is October 12th. We start with Thursday, October 5th. And you can go to the blog, and if you want to find an item that's on this, you can click on the calendar, which should be in the upper left part of the screen when you get on. Although I've been noticing that for some reason, computers are what they are. You can click on the date. Tom and I try to keep you apprised of what date we're talking about.
And some of these things are well worth following up on.
Yeah.
We just don't have the time. But,
yep. And one of them, by the way, I have included its own on the program here. I've included its own URL for a GoFundMe appeal.
We'll talk about that.
We will talk about it.
Yep.
But people who are watching this might have access. It goes all over the place. I don't know what people do with it. They might have access to that they can just click on if they're watching it on a computer, or I put a bit.ly link on the picture.
What?
A bit.ly link.
I don't even know what that is.
All right. Bit.ly is bit.ly.com, B-I-T-L-Y.
Yeah.
And if you have a long URL that you want to convey to somebody.
Okay, you can use a short version of it.
They will give you a short version, which aliases that. And what I do when I do those, because they just give you a bit.ly/ and then 8 random letters and numbers. Yeah. What I do is I edit those so that because it's such a pain to try to type random letters and numbers. Even 8 of them is a pain.
Yeah, it is.
So I try to put up something that's usable, and which I did in this case. And people should realize that the whole thing is case sensitive. So
is it? Okay.
It is case sensitive. Okay.
That's important to know.
It is, but we should probably start off here, and it happens that we start with a photograph, which is not a stunning photograph, but it's
nice
a photograph.
Sunset, or is it a sunrise?
This item came from Deutsche Welle. Well, you can tell that's either a sunset in the northern hemisphere or a sunrise in the southern hemisphere.
That's upon where you were sitting when you took the picture.
Well, you see, the thing is, we know that those panels are supposed to be pointing basically in the direction of the noonday sun.
Okay.
So with the sun rising in that...
So that suggests it's a sunrise.
If it's a sunrise, then it would be in a place like Australia or South Africa. But if it's a sunset, then it could be in North America or Europe or China.
We don't know where
and in
it
this
is.
particular case, I believe it's in China.
It's China, it says so, yeah, right.
It says so, but
okay.
Anything on a computer, never trust it.
Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Cheap solar energy. It's the fastest growing new power source.
Solar energy is the fastest growing source for electric power last year, a new International Energy Agency report said, amid the, quote, birth of a new era, end quote, for the renewable energy sector. Last year was the first time solar energy growth had surpassed any other fuel as a source of power, the report said, surpassing the net growth of coal.
So what we're seeing here is growth.
Growth.
Not the gross amount.
Not the gross amount, but you know,
But it's a trend.
in the United States, we've got, you know, Rick Perry, and we'll get into this later, saying he wants to support the coal industry. And you know, the next thing that happens is I come across 3 news items on coal plants that are shutting down.
Not because of renewables either.
And well, some of it actually I think is, but nevertheless, there are no coal burning power plants under construction in the United States.
I thought there was one.
If there is, it's a very small one. I couldn't find any.
Well, the reason behind this growth, according to the
Deutsche
article,
Welle. It's in Deutsche Welle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason behind this is because of the sharp drop in the price of panels, on
Yes.
one hand, and more government support
Yeah.
while it lasts.
And of course,
on the other hand,
the United States wants to put a tax on those panels coming in,
yeah, right.
which would be punitive in order
We've talked about that
in
already.
order to support 2 industries which are
To American industries that are foreign owned.
foreign-owned and in bankruptcy or you know, losing money, and as a result of that, of course, that would put a lot of people out of work who are solar developers if they have their way. But you know, you
Take care of your friends.
you take care of your friends. What can I say?
Well, according to this article, and this is probably a duh, but China was itself responsible for half of solar's growth.
Yeah.
Largely driven, and we've talked about this, by concerns about air pollution.
Yes.
And it's iconic now, some of the Beijing photographs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you know, there is another thing that came out in the news today, and that is China is getting really, really serious about putting in on-grid storage. Huge facilities, so that the solar power and the wind power that's being generated in places where they don't have really good grid connections can be stored.
And you use it when you need it.
And you use it when you
Duh.
need it. Duh. So, you know, the United States is being passed by technology in other countries. We're still married to the idea that people should be operating manual typewriters and slide rules and mechanical adding machines. And, you know, I mean, what they're doing is they're looking for subsidies on technology that was developed by the end of the First World War. I mean, this is
Earlier than that, really.
well.
Hey, look, if you could get a subsidy, why not?
Why not? And you know, I
Good for
mean,
good for a trip to the
Yeah.
islands, you know.
yeah. Although I'll tell you something, there was another one today. Some of the companies that are standing up against Rick Perry's request for subsidies for coal
Yeah.
are surprising.
We'll
You
talk
at-
about that later on too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So anyway,
Well, this new one carries on one we just finished. China leading in green energy growth.
this is from China Daily. China accounted for more than 40% of capacity growth in the renewable sector in 2016, and this was a record year for worldwide renewables, according to the International Energy Agency study, same study we had in the last item. Last year, new solar growth around the new solar capacity around the world grew by 50%. That's the capacity. That means it's doubling, faster than doubling every 2 years. Reaching
This
more.
is the new stuff.
This is the new stuff. Reaching more than 74 gigawatts, with China accounting for half of that expansion.
Well,
And-
from the article, and it's not surprising, China is also the world market leader in hydropower,
Yep.
bioenergy
Yep.
for electricity and heat, and electric vehicles.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, Donald Trump wants to make America a great representative of the early part of the 20th century. You know, he wants to make America great again by returning to, I don't know, maybe they're going to have battleships powered by coal.
That'd be fun, wouldn't
Why?
it?
It would be, oh yeah. We could see them from 50 miles away by the smoke they put
Well,
out.
we've been talking about solar. Let's talk about wind.
Yes, let's talk about wind. And this
Wind
is from
power is competitive on reliability and on resilience.
Renewable Energy Magazine sent us this one through the web. They didn't know they were doing it. American Wind Energy Association CEO Tom Kiernan appeared before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, where he said that, thanks to technological advances, Wind farms are now competitive with other energy technologies with regard to reliability and resiliency. This is the AWEA, American Wind Energy Association,
yep.
endorsed market-based solutions. And I got to tell you, the world is getting stood on its head. I mean, we have a Congress full of that is controlled by Republicans.
And they love the market, don't they?
Yeah, well, they say they do. There's only one problem, and that is if they're really going to go for market solutions here and not support, subsidies for coal and nuclear, what it means is that they're going to have to be they're going to have to look at this energy, wind and solar stuff a little bit more closely and stop putting it down, because that's where the market is.
Yeah.
That is where the market is.
And that's today.
And the
that's not the future, that's now.
That's right now. And in fact, that's last year too. And truth be told, the year before that. So they're either going to have to support their philosophical approach to politics and the market, or alternative, they can support the people who bought their congressional seats for them.
Well, which one do you think they're going to support?
Some will do one and some will do the other.
A little quick takeaway from this article, AWEA, we just talked about, is concerned that the DOE's recent proposals to provide payments to specific resources, right, based upon arbitrary requirements, it's anti-competitive and threatens to undermine electricity markets that are bolstering reliability and saving consumers billions per year.
People don't understand.
So this is coal.
Yeah, they want to bolster coal. They've already said that they're going to put out $3.7 billion in loans for the Vogtle. Is that the new power plant? Yeah, they're Vogtle in Georgia. People don't realize baseload power, the idea that you need baseload power is pure mythology.
Absolutely.
Absolutely mythology. And the reason for that is because baseload power, that's the baseload, that's the minimum, that you can deliver. That's
what's running in the background all the time.
What you need to make sure that the lights are turned on at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what they say. Yeah. Baseload power will not deliver anything close to peak demand.
Oh no.
So it has to be backed up by something that will.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is the paradigm that was put together, and I don't know, Tom, when did they start doing peaking power plants? It must have been by the First World War that they were doing that. They would have had to. You can't depend on baseload power for everything. It just can't be done. And
baseload power used to be like hydro from Niagara Falls.
Yes, well that you can regulate.
Can manipulate that a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean it's a matter of opening and closing valves. But with coal burning and nuclear and combined cycle natural gas,
you can't turn them on and off on a dime.
You can't turn them on and off on a day. But with renewable power, where you've got wind power. Well, wind doesn't really work all that well when the sun is shining brightly, and the sun shines brightly at peak demand times. And then in addition to that, in addition to wind and solar, you've got hydro, which is kind of like baseload power for the most part. And then you've got biomass, which you can get going. You've got synthetic natural gas and biogas. You've got a lot of choices here, and you can pull on those. Well, add to that batteries, and there is a stunning.
Well, that's a game changer right there.
Oh. There's a stunning thing that came up today being October 18th, and we won't talk about it in this show. We will in the next.
Better keep quiet then.
Cutting the cost of batteries down by 80%.
Well, it's happening as we speak.
Yeah. And
I mean, when I was in school, I don't think we spent more than a day talking about batteries. Boy, that has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I turn around, somebody's got some new idea.
Well, this thing is from MIT, and it's amazing. We're talking about storage capacity prices of $20 to $30 per kilowatt hour.
I can't relate to that, but that sounds low.
It's actually about a tenth of the price of.
I didn't think it was that low.
Yeah, the storage capacity prices. But the best I've seen around have been in the neighborhood of $160 to $180 per kilowatt hour.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And there's more to come.
There's more to come. There's no question
I
about
mean,
it.
there's little guys working in garrets with heavy glass.
Absolutely. This is what makes the world turn around.
Well, we got a
Okay.
picture coming up
We
here.
do indeed, and we are up to Friday, October 6th. And this particular picture, I'm going to apologize to everybody if it makes you feel like you've got something going wrong with your eyes because you're seeing double. Part of the problem is the picture's a little bit out of focus, and part of the problem is that everything's double. All those lines are actually double.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, utilities scramble to catch up with stunning fail in renewable energy costs. Not fall.
Fall.
In renewable energy costs.
This is from Renew Economy, which is an Australian organization. The Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis has released a report documenting the gathering momentum of the disruption of the electricity markets by renewables. This is not disruption by natural gas, it's disruption by renewables. It describes impacts of renewable resources on electricity prices as a key driver for this change and provides 11 case studies revealing the trend. And Tom, there was an article. I don't remember whether it's actually going to be in the show.
This was an interesting article.
Yeah, this is interesting. But South Australia, they had a day in which 50% of the power came from rooftop solar panels.
We'll talk about that.
Okay,
Yep,
I'm glad that's in
coming up.
this. Yeah, okay.
Well, this is what it's saying. Wholesale prices are being pushed down by the rise of renewable generation, which has no fuel cost.
Yeah, well,
Duh.
Maybe they've been watching our show.
It may take decades for renewables to become dominant globally, but their presence today is permanent, economically rational, and their advance inevitable.
yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Pay attention if you happen to be a utility. I mean, Green Mountain Power is really interested in renewable energy.
Well, they're pretty progressive.
They're pretty progressive. Anybody who really is smart, and there are people in utilities who are not smart,
Yeah.
but anybody who's really smart is going to take a look at Green Mountain Power and Mary Powell and what she's doing and why she's getting awards. It's worthwhile. Should we move on now?
Let us move on.
Okay, we've got an article from Utility Dive.
California grid operator urges less fossil fuel use in new report.
This is the grid operator.
Yeah.
The California ISO identified 8 trends shaping the power sector. Those trends include energy efficiency, the decline of gas-fired generation. Remember that.
Yeah.
Growth of wind and solar and decarbonization. The grid operator called for a reduction in fossil fuel use and focus on regulatory policy to use clean energy resources to base operations. And you know, Tom, when I saw this article, when I'm doing something for my blog, if I come across something that's really, I say, what's going on here? I do special searches just for it.
Yeah.
And so I looked into this. In the last year, now this is a period of a year, every month, if you compare the use of natural gas for that month for generating electricity to what it was in the same month a year before, and you have to do it month by month because things change on a seasonal basis. If you compare them, every single month in the last year has been less than it was the year before, and the average decline is over 10%.
That's significant.
I think if I were in the gas industry, I'd be sitting there saying to myself, holy cow, we're in a serious recession here. What's going on? I haven't really seen that much in the news. I mean, I wrote an article for Clean Technica and made a point of that in the article, although it wasn't the major point of the article, really. But there's change underway here that's serious. If it was just a month, you could say, well, it's a blip. But it isn't a blip when it's gone on for a year.
This is correct.
So I don't know what to say about that beyond that. But anyway, the California ISO is saying decline in gas-fired generation? Absolutely.
Well, we talk about decarbonization, which means basically moving away from any fuels containing carbon.
Right.
And that's all fossil fuels. I mean, that's
All
that's
fossil
what they're
fuels,
talking about.
they're
Even gas.
containing carbon, absolutely.
So, takeaway from the article, power generation is increasingly becoming localized, which is I think is a good thing.
Absolutely.
More Californians investing in distributed energy resources like rooftop solar arrays.
Absolutely.
And we'll find out a little later that it's big time in Australia too.
Yeah, I guess we will. Okay.
Let's move around and move over to Scotland now. We got
Scotland.
another picture
We
coming
do
up.
indeed.
This is kind of pretty picture.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Scotland, but this was stunning.
Monday's wind power, double the amount needed to power Scotland.
Okay, gang.
That was last Monday.
That was
a week ago Monday.
We're on the news that's coming up on October 6th here. Which is a Friday. This refers to the previous Monday.
Yes. So
Wind turbines generated over twice as much power as Scotland needed on October 2nd. The World Wildlife Fund Scotland analyzed wind power data and found that wind turbines in Scotland provided 86,467 megawatt hours of electricity to the national grid on that day. Scotland's total electricity consumption, including homes, businesses, and industry for the day, was 41,866 megawatt hours. This is from the Scotsman.
and what they said is for the month, wind power produced 63% of Scotland's entire electricity needs for the month.
Yeah. So they're not spending money on fossil fuels. This is not necessarily, I think people should understand something about Scotland, by the way. Scotland is moving heavily toward the use of renewable power.
Absolutely.
Scotland historically has made a lot of money on oil.
North Sea oil.
North Sea
Yep,
oil.
absolutely.
Norway is doing the same thing.
Yep.
Not everybody who is making a little money from fossil fuels is trying to prevent going to renewable power.
I think what Scotland's doing is selling that.
Well,
North Sea oil.
they're selling the oil elsewhere, but they're also facing the fact that they're going to be going out of the oil business.
Well,
And-
eventually they have to because it's going to be gone.
Absolutely. Okay.
Let's move along to Sunday, October 7th.
What a good idea.
Cost recovery rule, not a directive for FERC. This is, you've already mentioned this.
Yes.
Let's talk about it a little
This
bit
is
more.
from Utility Dive. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry addressed his agency's recent proposed rule to provide cost recovery for baseload coal and nuclear generators, saying it's not a directive. He's not telling FERC that they have to do this. For the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC, the Washington Examiner reports, FERC Commissioner Robert Powelson, he's the chairman, said he would quit before voting for this rule.
That's interesting.
There's 5 people on the board, and 2 of them said they'd quit.
Well, another thing that's interesting is a broad group of energy interests, which would include natural gas, renewable energy, and storage, lined up to oppose this.
As did U.S. Steel and Koch Industries.
Koch Industries did.
Yes.
Huh? Wow. Surprising.
Yeah. Well, you know, what he's talking about here is backing coal and nuclear.
Yeah.
Koch Industries doesn't have interest in
Either one of them.
well, they have a really small interest in coal, but I think they've already written that off.
Yeah.
I mean, coal is basically the decline of coal is stunning. It's lost the coal market share in market value of coal stock has declined by like 98%.
Well, we talked about
Yeah.
some of these businesses going out of business.
Yeah. So Koch Industries, they don't want this, and of course they've been saying all along that they want the market to decide, so they don't want it. So I think that Rick Perry made a strategic blunder when he tried that one out.
Well, he was parroting the party line, but the party line's off base.
But the party line is so completely discombobulated because you've got people saying we want the market to decide. No, wait a minute. We've got to protect the people who put us into office. You know, how do you deal with that?
Let's move along. We're going to talk about a very interesting guy here.
Yeah, a very interesting guy, and I will apologize for
I
this
got a
photo also. It also looks like there's something funny going on. Actually, this is Elon Musk standing in front of a screen. So if
He's giving a talk.
he's giving
Yeah.
a talk, and if you see all those dots in the background, or it looks like there's a window screen in front of
Looks
everything,
like a wind turbine for him.
I believe that's a wind farm. I
Yeah.
believe those are wind turbines in the background. He's of course talking about this. This is really funny. Okay, go ahead.
Future shock. Faster we get there, the better, says Tesla's Musk.
Okay, Elon Musk did not need 100 days after obtaining a connection agreement to switch on the Tesla big battery in South Australia. The battery was up and running, providing power for unveiling the first demonstration less than 100 minutes after the ink dried. And on the connection deal, installation is still continuing, but Elon Musk made his point.
Well, this is a kind of a puff piece on Musk, but he deserves a lot of the praise he's getting.
Yeah.
He's a pretty smart guy.
He's you know, every once in a while he does something and I say to myself, I wonder if he's just going out a little bit too far on a limb here.
Well, he stuck his nose out. He said he's going to get the system installed and working within 100 days or it's free.
Yeah, but he installed,
And
he 100
he
days.
doesn't have to make it free.
100 days after he signed the agreement. And he signed the agreement on like October 6th, and within 100 minutes of signing the agreement, he was standing in front of this
It was all
thing.
sitting there ready. This was, how did you say it? A show.
It was a show. He had a show, and he said, I just, here we go. And it's half up.
Yep.
Of course, he was installing it without the agreement, which is how that worked. But, okay, moving on.
Well, he's got something I just learned about. He now threatens to upturn the road freight industry in a few weeks with the unveiling of the Tesla Semi,
Yeah.
a fully electric truck.
Okay, that's the information you've got. But I can tell you, it ain't going to happen.
It ain't going to happen on time, but it's
No,
going to happen.
it's going to happen. It'll
Yeah.
happen, but
A couple
not.
weeks later.
It'll
Yeah.
happen like a month late.
Yeah, okay. I'll
And
buy that.
we get into that, don't we? I think we do.
I don't think we're
All
talking
right,
about the Tesla truck yet.
Okay, in case we don't have it, the Tesla, it's a semi. It's the tractor of a
big
tractor
over-the-road
trailer. It's going to be an electric semi, but it was supposed to be introduced this month.
Yeah,
it's
and
not.
they put it on a shelf for another.
They put it on the shelf for another so they could save Puerto Rico.
Yep.
There
And
you
that's
go.
what's coming up next right
Okay.
now.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I hope I can't pronounce this guy's name. I'll pronounce it in the Italian way.
Okay.
Rosello tweets to Elon Musk for help. Elon sends the troops. Another
Okay.
picture of, I'm going to put Elon
The
up again.
upside of Twitter showed an exchange between Governor Ricardo Rossello of Puerto Rico and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Governor Rossello was seemingly sending a desperate plea for help. I don't blame him. I mean,
Of course not.
Donald Trump has said that he.
He threw paper towels at him, didn't he?
Yeah, he
some
deserves an
stupid thing
A
like that.
plus for the work he's done. I think that what he deserves is, I don't know. I think he's gone through his let them eat cake moment. But Rossello sent a plea for somebody increasingly for someone. He needed support rebuilding the collapsed grid in Puerto Rico, which at this point was 100% off.
Well, we've talked about that.
Yep.
And the grid was A, antiquated,
Yep.
B, inefficient,
Yep.
and C, underfunded.
Yeah.
And you could almost see in the background the power companies going like this, Oh, it's going to go bankrupt, we're going to grab it. It's going to be privatized.
Yeah. Well.
And now this guy's coming along and saying, forget about it, We don't even really need a grid. We're going to put all these little localized generators all over the island.
And Donald Trump said, well, we should get rid of the Puerto Rican debt. That's how we can help them. We'll give them $4.9 billion. Give? No. What he wants to do is give them a loan for $4.9 billion.
Right.
Ever so swiftly, Elon Musk responded positively. Musk has already got hundreds of Powerwall batteries being installed in Puerto Rico, and they are just going to continue flowing down there, I'll betcha.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Tesla, according to the article, Tesla has already shipped hundreds of Powerwall battery systems to be paired with solar panels.
Yeah. Where are the solar panels coming from?
China.
I think they're going to come from, was it Solar World that Tesla bought? I don't know what.
Oh, yeah, he's got a solar company, doesn't he?
But I was unable to find any information on specifically where these panels were coming from. So I just don't know. But
well, it makes sense that if he's in catbird seat there, he's going to feather his nest as best he can.
Well,
why buy them from China when you can make them yourself?
Well, yeah, but I think there's a fair amount of philanthropy in this guy.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the Koch brothers talk about being philanthropists, and if anywhere you go to get biographical information on these two guys, you're going to find something that says they're philanthropists because they give money to the opera. And yeah, well, I'm sorry, I think they're misanthropes, to tell you the truth. Anyway, we're up to Sunday.
Got another picture here coming up.
Sunday, October 8th. And here we have a picture, and we've got
It's kind of interesting because it looks like pollution, but it's not.
Yeah, it's steam. Yeah, but it's from a polluting plant.
Well, it's from a polluting plant. Yep.
And
absolutely.
This is from World Religion News.
Yeah, I saw that.
But the content
Do you
of
believe? I do believe.
You remind me of.
Do you believe? I believe, I believe, I believe. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle.
That's right.
Okay,
Well,
sorry about that.
This Catholic Church doesn't drown people.
It doesn't, and if anybody it belongs to a church that does, we apologize for the joke. All right.
Well, let's get to the meat of things here. The Catholic Church is pulling fossil fuel investments.
This is really significant.
Oh, yeah.
The anniversary of the death of St. Francis of Assisi saw about 40 Catholic institutions announcing their faith-centric divestment from the fossil fuel industry and its ancillaries. The value of the divestment was not disclosed, but it is thought to be approximately $5.5 trillion.
That's significant, isn't it?
I noticed that the day after this happened,
Yeah,
everything that was fossil fuels, the stock went down.
I can believe it.
The sum is 4 times more than any previous church records. This is
again from the article. Pope Francis admitted to the veracity of science that climate change was real. He wrote that technology based on fossil fuels is a highly polluting one and must be replaced.
This, by the way, for anybody who's interested, I remember, I don't know if it was Rick Perry or Ted Cruz or somebody said, the Pope should stick to religion and leave science to the scientists.
And he's a scientist himself.
The Pope is a scientist, and he's the person
who chemist or something like that.
I think he's a chemist. Yeah, he's got a master's degree in chemistry, as I recall. And the person who was accusing him had a doctorate of law. Nothing in science. And by the way, we've got a government full of science deniers. So, yeah, I would leave science to the scientists.
Well,
Thank you very much.
It's interesting not only to hear that the Pope said something like this, but he said it in what they call an encyclical, which is a very important official announcement.
Yes.
This isn't just a speech.
Yes.
Encyclicals are very important in the church.
Yes. Okay, we've got an item from USA Today, which is basically a continuation of what we were
Elon Musk,
just talking about.
Could Puerto Rico go solar? Its governor said talks with Elon Musk about that went well.
Puerto Rico's Governor Ricardo Rossello and Tesla chief Elon Musk had a 25-minute phone conversation in which the two discussed relief efforts as well as Tesla playing a leading role. Rossello said in an interview with USA Today, teams from Tesla and Puerto Rico's energy sector will continue the talks early next week. Now,
go.
We've got, we've got a territory of the United States that has basically been neglected by the federal government. And the federal government continues
I think
to neglect it.
exploited is a better word.
Okay, I'll go with that. But right now, certainly what we're seeing is that Donald Trump is neglecting it. And you know, he just tweeted today, Puerto Rico can't depend upon our support forever.
Oh. How about Iowa?
Yeah, how about
Texas?
Yeah,
Vermont?
Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, this goes right along with what I was just saying. It says it a little bit better. Even before Maria, Puerto Rico's electrical grid was antiquated and heavily in debt. New solar panels linked together to feed into a regional grid would generate its own power, be less vulnerable to storms, and cut down consumers' energy bills.
be less vulnerable to storms is an
Bingo.
important issue.
Absolutely.
And it means that if you know the solar farm for supporting one village is wiped out, the next village could still be in business. And by the way, when Sandy hit New Jersey, there were solar farms down there that got damaged
Yeah.
and lost 2% of their panels. There was no widespread damage of solar. And by the way, when Sandy went through, there were, I forget how many, but it was over 70 wind turbines that had been put up by Northern Power Systems, I think. Is that the name of the company that's in Vermont that makes wind turbines?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
There's a Vermont wind turbine manufacturer, and all of those turbines withstood the storm.
That's encouraging.
The grid does not withstand the storms well.
Well, anything, we just saw all those towers.
Yep.
You know, they're very vulnerable to storms. And they're also vulnerable to stupid guys in hunting season with guns.
Yeah, and a bunch of other things too. I mean, one of the problems that Rick Perry has going to FERC and saying we need to have resilience, and that means we need baseload power, is that FERC issued that warning a couple of years ago saying our grid could be brought down for a year and a half by a terrorist attack. That's the
It could happen very easily.
Yep.
I mean, the grid is very, very vulnerable.
Well, I think it was after that, and not very long after that, that we saw that facility in California where the transformers were attacked by a guy with a high-powered rifle, and he knocked out all of the transformers at one site.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing. The bullets were aimed very carefully for
We shot him at the
cooling system.
the cooling systems. Yep.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's like putting a note up that says, by the way, this report was correct. Now, I don't know who did it or why he did it exactly, but it was pretty carefully thought out. This was not the Taliban vandalism kind of.
Well, we're talking again about Puerto Rico, and I'm looking at this. This could turn out to be a blessing in disguise
It could.
as far as their grid is
Absolutely. It
concerned.
could be a blessing in disguise for the whole country. Because if the governor of Puerto Rico and Tesla combine forces, and Google's involved, and other companies are involved, who are looking at distributed power, you know, you're going to have a lot of people down there who are doing a lot of work, and restoring the grid as it existed may not be necessary. And by the way,
I think it shouldn't be necessary.
one of Rick Perry's solutions was,
Yeah.
we'll give them small modular reactors, nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
Which have not
are
even, these things haven't even been tested. Oh yeah, well, what can I say? Unless he's talking about old technology or possibly the reactors that are in Navy ships, but.
Another thing that you don't hear much about is Puerto Rico has wind. They're right in the path of the easterly trade wind.
Why in the world? I don't know. I mean, the federal government is treating Puerto Rico like a foreign country, which it wants to get rid of.
Yeah.
And maybe the Puerto
they
Ricans.
don't want to get rid of it. They just want to exploit it.
Yeah, well, okay. Valley News.
Yes.
This is in Vermont.
This is an interesting article. It's in Vermont. X-Mine hosts Vermont's biggest solar array.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
This is neat.
It was kind of fun because I wrote an article for Green Energy Times about this array just at the time that this was appearing. So, you know, I got a little extra information. But this is what it says. Elizabeth Mine, whose excavations left a moonscape of waste rock and tailings that leached orange effluent into nearby streams, is a brownfield that has been transformed into a greenfield, that's in quotes, with that will generate 5 megawatts of electricity. It will power the annual needs of about 1,200 Vermont homes for decades to come, its promoters say. And it's a beautiful site now, covered with these solar
they did a good
panels
job.
with grass under them.
It's fun to watch this article.
Yeah.
Read this article.
Yeah, it is.
It'll take you about 2 weeks to read it.
Well, it's worth reading, though.
Well, a little history here. The Elizabeth mine operated in South Stratford from the early 1800s till it closed in 1958.
Yes.
It employed more than 200 workers at its peak, produced nearly 50,000 tons of copper, and comprised a mini city of structures and facilities spread across a 250-acre site.
Yeah.
And that's what they have put these solar panels
Now, did
on.
you say 50,000 tons?
50,000 tons.
Okay, 50,000 tons is about 1 million pounds.
Okay.
Is that right? 50,000. No, it's about 10 million pounds.
It's more than I can think of.
100 million pounds. What am I? Oh, yeah, it's about 100 million pounds. I don't know where my brain is today. It's about 100 million pounds of copper. That's a lot of money. I mean, copper is valuable stuff. The cost of the Superfund site dealing with the waste was $70 million.
That's in the article. Yep, it cost
And
the 14-year-old remediation project cost the federal government.
So that adds 70
million bucks.
cents to every pound of copper.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we live in a society where you can take it out of the ground and you can do what you want and you can dump that waste anywhere you want. And the EPA shouldn't be involved in this kind of thing.
Well, it's called privatizing the profit and socializing the costs.
And, you know,
It's
they're
nice
saying,
if you get it.
yeah, they want to cut the thing that this business of cutting the budget of the EPA and cutting inspectors and so forth.
Yeah.
The thing that they don't think about, and a really good example, is New Orleans, which is getting its drinking water from the Mississippi River.
Okay.
Where does that water come from? Well, half the country. And that means that
Pretty more even than that, because you got the Missouri feeding into it.
absolutely, and you've got
all over the West.
agricultural runoff going into that river, which means that if you permit the agricultural runoff to be done the way that big agribiz is going to do it, using products that are fungicides and herbicides and insecticides and
Bad stuff.
bad stuff that's going to be people-sides, you know.
Yeah.
It goes down to New Orleans, and it's got to be removed from the water for New Orleans and Baton Rouge and all those cities along the Mississippi River. How much does it cost to regulate it? How much does it cost to remove it? Well, it costs about 20 times as much to remove it as it does to regulate it.
That's
So
an interesting
this is just
statistic.
idiotic, all right?
Yeah.
But of course, we've got a president with a high IQ. And you know what a high IQ does? A high IQ, and I can tell you this from personal experience, because I have a high IQ. It means that if you are a complete fool, you're just a bigger fool. And there are people in my past who will tell you that.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, we got another picture coming up.
we do indeed. And this is, we've been talking a lot about Puerto Rico, and this is
Here it is.
an item from Clean Technica. And you know, Clean Technica is a big website. I've actually seen them get 33,000 views in 1 hour.
Wow.
Yeah, almost 500,000 in a day.
I'm sitting there looking at that picture there.
Yep.
That's pretty disastrous.
Well, you just look at this guy driving a car was driving it under
Under the power line.
power lines that are stretched like banjo strings. You know,
Yeah.
is this safe? Well, it may be necessary. That's the problem. I don't know why a person's in that car, but anyway, this is from Clean Technica.
Well, this is an interesting article, particularly interesting when we get into it.
Yep.
Together, we can make things better.
Yeah. An appeal for help from Puerto Rico. Here is a chance to help people stand up to a president who makes light of a disaster by throwing out paper towels, a moment right up there with, quote, let them eat cake, end quote. We are all in this together, and together we can make things better. Please help Joseph, Rosemary, and their family. And I told you there was a bit.ly address coming up, and it's right there on the picture. It is http://bit.ly/Puerto-Rico-fundraiser, PR are capitalized, and if you go there,
Wish we had it. We could put it up on the screen. It's hard to follow the words.
it's hard to see it on the screen there. Yeah, well, I put it on the shows. As I said, I don't know what people are going to get. This show is broadcast all over the place, and I don't know how many places. There may be places that will remove that information, but this is something that people can help.
Well, the guy behind this particular fund
Yep.
is a local guy
In Brattleboro.
named
Yep.
Joe Mangum.
Yep.
Mangum. or
Mangum.
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 Yep.
And he owns Sunnyside Solar?
That's correct.
Okay, so he is putting his money where his mouth is.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And
yeah?
his wife is from Puerto Rico.
Well,
and
so he's got a direct connection.
he's got a direct connection. They just got back from Puerto Rico when the storm hit.
We got to get him on the show.
I'd like to get him on the show. He's
Get a whole
kind
bunch of pictures.
he's kind of private, so it would be nice.
He's
But
a businessman. He'd be promoting his business.
well, but he's a businessman who's not. His business is not promotion. His
Yeah.
business
Well, we'll
is
see what
installing
happens.
solar panels.
We'll see what happens. But in
Okay.
any case, if you have some money that you're not doing anything with, and you'd like to do something for Puerto Rico,
This is a
where do we
place-
send it again?
This is bit.ly/
Let me put you up here so they can read your lips.
bit.ly/Puerto-Rico-fundraiser, PR are capitalized. And I have, we checked about fundraising for these things in a previous program. And I know we're not allowed to advertise, but this is not considered an advertisement.
This is charity.
This is charity.
Something else
And
again.
yeah, it's okay. We should move on.
Yes, we should.
We're up to Tuesday, October 10th, and wait a minute. Where am I going?
We're still on Monday.
We're still on Monday. Yes.
Hurricane Nate sets record for most consecutive Atlantic hurricanes since at least 1893.
Hurricane Nate, which pummeled the coasts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama at Category 1 status early Sunday, has made 2017 hurricane season one of the worst on record since 1893 and possibly earlier in terms of the numbers of hurricanes. And U.S. territories have never before been hit by 3 category storms in one season. So this is the 4th storm. It didn't make it to Category 4, but this hurricane season has been appallingly bad, and Donald Trump saying we've had worse storms before is just showing how fatuous he actually is. Big IQ, small mind.
From the article, and it just repeats the headline. The last time 9 consecutive named storms hit the Atlantic was in 1893 when 10 storms hit the coast.
It's crazy. The difference, though, is these storms are much more powerful.
They're powerful.
Okay, we
and they're
should move
coming
on.
out, bing, bing, bing.
We should-
and it's not over yet.
Yep, we
You
should
see,
move on because we've only
still
got
another month and a half of the hurricane season.
We've only got a couple of minutes left here for each of the.
Okay, we
each
got
of the
11
things.
minutes.
Okay, our next item is from BBC News.
And we got another picture here.
We have it.
And let's get it up here.
Okay,
This is in Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Rural Rwanda is home to a pioneering no solar power idea.
So-
This is an interesting article.
It is. Some 1.2 billion people around the world have no access to electric power. In Rwanda, for example, less than 20% of the population live in homes that enjoy electricity, a fact that stymies development and reinforces poverty. It is a huge problem, but to some people, it is a statistic that rings not of hopelessness, but of opportunity, and there are the guys taking that opportunity.
Yep. It's interesting that they're aimed at rural Africa, rural countries anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And they realize these people don't have a lot of money. So they're renting them the equipment.
Yeah.
They put the panel up on their roof. They give them a storage battery. They give them the opportunity to rent a TV
Yep.
and stuff like that.
And if
And they're
they
collecting it all via cell phone.
and how would the world look different if all these people had electricity and had the capacity to make money and buy goods from somebody? So, that's a lot of stuff to
Sounds
sell.
like a win-win situation.
Yeah,
to
and
me.
you know who would get rich out of that?
Well, these guys would.
Well, yeah, but who else? Who is going to get rich if the poor people of the world suddenly have money?
The poor people.
Well, the poor people, but who is going to be selling them stuff?
Well, yeah, big business.
Where?
USA.
No.
Where?
China,
of
because
course. Yeah,
Donald
yeah,
Trump
yeah.
is tying us to the 20th century. Donald
okay.
Trump is making America into a great First World War power again. Okay, let's keep going. We've got to move on, and we've got a picture here.
We got 9 minutes now.
We are up to Tuesday. That means we got
another picture.
Yep,
another
and this is from the Des Moines-Register.com.
Des Moines.
Des Moines, that's
Des
right.
Moines, yes. Will Iowa continue adopting wind and solar without federal mandates?
EPA head Scott Pruitt's plan to repeal the Clean Power Plan is unlikely to stop Iowa's nation-leading adoption of wind energy, say environmental advocates, electric associations, and a number of government leaders, by the way, several of whom happen to be Republicans. Iowa's Attorney General, who happens to be a Republican, said he and other states' attorneys general plan to challenge Pruitt's efforts in court. And you know what? The EPA, which is headed by Scott Pruitt, is under a court order coming from the Supreme Court to deal with carbon dioxide. How is he going to get around that?
Change the composition of the court.
No, they're going to go back to the court and they're going to have to argue. You're going to have to reverse the decision that you just made.
Yeah.
And the court doesn't do that very easily. Okay.
Interesting takeaway here.
Yep.
Iowa gets 36% of its energy from wind,
Yep.
leading the nation in the percentage last year. It ranks second nationally in the amount of wind energy generated.
Yep.
Wind is second, this is interesting, wind is second only to coal as a source of energy in Iowa.
Yeah. Okay. Now I've lost where we are.
Rooftop solar.
Rooftop solar. I see Rwanda. Where am I? Iowa. I see it. There it is.
Next one
South
right after
Australia.
that, yep.
Clean Technica. Okay.
Rooftop solar provides nearly half of South Australia's power, pushing grid demand to a record low.
Crazy. This is crazy. This is not solar.
And
It doesn't include
people
utility.
are doing it on their own.
Yeah. In South Australia, a record was set at 47.8% of the state's electricity demand being met by rooftop solar systems. These are privately owned systems for families. This was the result of low grid demand during a weekend with moderate early spring temperatures, so that there were few air conditioners switched on, combined with excellent rooftop solar output, producing a stunning 538.54 megawatts. This is almost the size of the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant, and it's sitting on people's roofs.
This is kind of the opposite of a perfect storm, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well,
non-storm.
it's a perfect non-storm. I think we've said what we need to there, unless you've got something.
Well, this is interesting from that article. The energy market operator, the guy that runs the grid, okay, also predicted that within 10 years, the grid demand may fall to zero because of the increasing amount of rooftop solar.
I think it's going to be less than 10 years. Okay, our next item
He's
is
playing it safe.
from Science Daily.
Let's see if I can get this thing. Here we go. Science Daily.
Yep.
Huge energy potential in open ocean wind farms in the North Atlantic, and there's a picture of that.
There is.
Coming
There
up
is a considerable opportunity for generating wind power in the open ocean, according to research from Carnegie Institution for
This is
Science.
the first I've heard of this one.
Yeah. Published by the Proceedings of the National Academy for Sciences in wintertime, the North Atlantic wind farms, this is just an area of the North Atlantic, could provide sufficient energy to meet all of civilization's current needs.
So they could power the world from the North Atlantic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the North Atlantic isn't the only place in the world with resources like that. We should go on, Tom. We've only got 5 minutes and we got 3 articles.
I'm just thinking, yeah, there's nothing else. I got stuff to say, but I won't say it.
Okay.
We're on
Good for
Wednesday
you.
the 11th.
Yes, and we've
we
got
got
an
a picture
item from
coming up.
CNBC, and it's a
Wait
picture
a
of
second, it's the same picture.
that's
Oh.
the picture I just put up.
Okay.
Okay.
You're getting ahead of me.
I
here.
am getting ahead of you.
You're getting ahead
Sorry
of me.
about that. I didn't realize that it was on the screen.
Well,
Go
it's
ahead.
That's
It's the right picture
so
for this one.
That's Michigan's largest solar park,
Yep.
which will produce enough power to power enough electricity to power 11,000 homes.
Michigan, which experiences harsh cold winters and is now home to a 200,000 panel solar array on a 250-acre site. The Lapeer Solar Park is operational and generating enough renewable energy to power 11,000 homes. It is one of the largest utility-owned solar parks east of the Mississippi River, Detroit-based DTE Energy said in a statement. And I think that it may actually be the second largest.
East of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
still a big park.
Yeah, it is.
Let's just put the picture up again just to...
If you wish.
That's big.
That's big.
That is big.
250 acres, and you weren't seeing the whole thing there. There's
No, it's off to the sides.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yep, and in the distance. Okay, our next item is from the Union of Concerned Scientists.
And this is an interesting and informative article too. It's long.
Yep.
What is the real story on the future of coal?
What's the real story on the future of coal? An analysis from the Union of Concerned Scientists tracks the changes in the nation's fleet of 1,256 coal-fired electric generating units from from the year 2008 to 2016, and concludes that 38% of the nation's coal generating capacity is less economic to run than alternatives. And
That's an interesting statistic.
it is. And that includes both plants. About half of these plants are scheduled to close down now,
Yep.
and the other half are just not economic. And
They're,
all right, they're
keeping
closing.
them on, but they're losing money.
Nobody's replacing these things, although you said that there was one plant under construction. And there's no way that the coal mining jobs are going to be saved. It's just not going to happen. And the export of coal is
Well, even within the coal mining, the traditional coal mining areas in West Virginia and Kentucky
Yeah.
are too expensive to operate.
yeah.
So coal mining is going west.
And and the miner is being replaced by heavy equipment.
Oh yeah, an underground
So-
coal mine's got a couple of hundred people. Open pit mine's got about 10.
Yeah. And the underground coal mines, they've got what's called shearing equipment. A
Yeah.
friend of mine is a coal union organizer in New Mexico.
Okay.
And she says this shearing equipment is going to be replacing miners all over the West. And you know, this is she was telling the coal unions, you've got to get new jobs for your people. They don't like hearing that.
Well, yeah, this generally been in the family for a couple of generations.
Yeah,
you know?
and
My
they make
dad
a lot
worked in the mines. I'm going to work in the
Yeah,
mines.
and they make a lot of money in the mines. They're not going to make as much outside, but there are good jobs out there waiting for them if they go to them. We've got one more item from KUAR.
And one and a half more minutes.
Okay.
Oklahoma wind power project to be the biggest in the nation will push supply to Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana.
A public-private partnership is pushing ahead on plans to build the nation's largest wind farm, the second largest in the world, in western Oklahoma. The 2,000 megawatt Wind Catcher Energy Connection project is a collaborative venture by Invenergy, Public Service Company of Oklahoma, and Southwestern Electric Power Company.
Well, there's going to be more than 800 turbines,
Yep,
okay? And it's scheduled to go online in late 2020.
yep.
And then they got a 350-mile long, 765,000 volt power transmission line to bring it to the grid.
Yeah,
This is a big project.
this is a big project. Well, we
Project
should...
is expected to yield 8,000 direct and indirect jobs and $300 million in property taxes over the next 25 years.
That's important. This is in the panhandle of western Oklahoma, and that's
There's
property
not a
taxes.
lot there, is there?
There's not a lot out there, and those local governments are going to be able to fund schools, and there's going to be a lot of benefit to these
Second order
communities.
consequences aren't always bad.
That's right. Okay, we got to say goodbye.
Goodbye,
Goodbye, everybody.
folks.
The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together,